Coming up next on KPBS Evening Edition, the California Coastal Commission has rejected the Navy's plan for San Diego's waterfront.
And what do Occupy San Diego and medical marijuana have in common? We'll tell you when we go on the record with San Diego City Council President Tony Young. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Joanne Farian.
And I'm Dwayne Brown. We begin tonight with a brush fire burning south of the border, sending ash and smoke into San Diego County. It started west of Tecate Peak this morning, and it's burned about 600 acres. No structures are threatened. People in Chula Vista and Imperial Beach are reporting a lot of smoke and ash. This video was shot in the Tijuana estuary. San Diego County is under a red flag warning for high fire danger and strong gusty winds until 9 tonight. Earlier today, a possible arson fire scorched 12 acres in the Black Mountain Ranch area.
Nuclear watchdog and environmental groups are criticizing Southern California Edison for taking an hour to announce an ammonia leak at the San Onofre nuclear power plant. That leak led to an emergency alert yesterday. Edison says the leak was not radioactive and there was no danger to the community.
The California Coastal Commission has delivered a blow to a major development proposed for San Diego's downtown waterfront. KPBS reporter Allison St. John says the Navy Broadway project pits the commission against the federal government. She joins us now by telephone. Allison, why should the public even care about this 20-year-old project?
Well, Dwayne, this is really a battle over a piece of property at the heart of San Diego, arguably one of the most valuable pieces of waterfront property in Southern California. It's right there between the Star of India and Seaport Village. You'd hardly notice it now because it's full of aging Navy office buildings. But it was given to the Navy by the city back in the 20s, and the Navy now wants to put up 4 office towers, 3 hotels, in order to finance a new headquarters. Now, the Coastal Commission is arguing that since they approved this project 20 years ago, a lot has changed, and it no longer is consistent with the California Coastal Act. So a lot of people are criticizing it for a lot of different reasons. The fact that it is possibly an earthquake fault, the fact that having a Navy headquarters could be a security risk right in the middle of downtown. But a lot is at stake because, for example, a military lobby group, SDMAC, has just done an economic study that shows it would create more than 5,000 jobs and $850 million annually in revenue.
And Allison, you've been covering this story, of course, for years. I'm just wondering, where do we go from here?
Well, now that the Coastal Commission has made their ruling, that could be a significant stumbling block. Congresswoman Susan Davis said that she hoped that by approving this, it might bring both parties back to the table and rather than kill the project, mean that they would redesign it in a way that actually created more access and more open space. And she's actually advocating for the Navy to build its headquarters on one of the bases rather than right there. However, we don't know yet how the Navy is going to react. It could end up in court or it could end up in a negotiation.
KPBS reporter Allison St. John.
San Diego transportation officials are weighing in on the California Rail Authority's new plan to build the state's first high-speed rail system. KPBS reporter Marissa Cabrera joins us from the news center with the story. Marissa, the price tag for this line has gotten even more expensive, $100 billion just for this section that connects Anaheim to San Francisco. Where does San Diego fall in?
Well, here's the thing, Joanne. San Diego is sort of out of the mix. The plan has always been to build the train line that goes from LA to San Francisco first, then extend it over to San Diego. Today, I spoke with Jerome Stocks. He's the chair of the San Diego Association of Governments. And here's what he said. He basically said, look, $100 billion, where is the California Rail Authority going to come up with this money? They can't come up with that money. That means that San Diego is definitely out of the mix. He believes that this bullet train that you're seeing here on the screen right now is definitely unrealistic. It's not going to come to San Diego. He says that at this point, just the money is not there.
So what happens next with this line? It's just up in the air?
Well, basically, at this point, the California Rail Authority is committed to starting construction with the Central Valley part of this line. That is the first phase. And but first, there's going to be a lot of public comment and legislative hearings.
KPBS reporter Marissa Cabrera.
San Diego Unified School District's credit rating has been downgraded by a second investment firm. Standard & Poor's now gives the district a AA-. If you recall, last week, Moody's downgraded the district's long-term bonds. The downgrades could make it more expensive for the school district to borrow money. Union leaders joined Occupy San Diego protesters for a march downtown. They staged a brief rally, urging people to switch from banks to credit unions. Marches like this were also staged in Oakland, where a general strike is underway. Occupy San Diego is just one of the topics Joanne is discussing tonight with City Council President Tony Young over at the Evening Edition Roundtable.
As president of San Diego City Council, Tony Young arguably has one of the most powerful positions at City Hall. In his position, Young exercises control over the council's agenda. He came under scrutiny recently from Occupy San Diego protesters over whether he would put a resolution of support for the movement on the agenda. In a moment, we'll put the council president on the record about the protest movement and another controversial city issue, medical marijuana. But first, take a look at this recent tweet from Councilmember Young's Twitter account, one that we found especially apropos given our topics of conversation today. He says, or he tweets, "Walk through Occupy San Diego, the smell of freedom similar to medicinal cannabis." Well, joining me now is San Diego City Council President Tony Young. Thank you, Councilmember Young, for being here.
Thank you.
I know your tweet a bit tongue-in-cheek, and we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But first of all, let's bring our audience up to speed with regard to the Occupy movement. They were at City Hall again yesterday. What are they asking you to do?
Well, they're asking us to do a lot of things, but one specific issue would be to put a resolution on the council's docket for us to discuss and support what they're doing. I would just say that we've been working really closely with Occupy San Diego. We've had our city clerk go and talk to them about how to interact with the city council, which they did a good job yesterday. And I've been out there a number of times just talking to folks to see what they have to say. And then in the future, there will be issues that I think that will be important to Occupy San Diego that they can actually talk about at city council. Like in the next few weeks, we're going to have an issue on foreclosure, which is important to them. So it's really a kind of a growing relationship that we have with these individuals who are out at City Plaza.
I mentioned the power you have as council president. You could put that resolution on the agenda without other council members signing on. Why don't you do that?
Well, I usually don't do that. What I usually do is try to find consensus and to find out if my colleagues are willing to actually have this discussion. I have put things on in the past, but in this situation, I think that because of the nature of the issue, it'll be better to have some more consensus. And the way that you do that is have 4 members of the council sign a memo asking for it to be put on the docket.
Now, also, your term in office, one of the things that you've really focused on are really opportunities for young people. We've been talking on our show recently about whether this is a young person's movement. We're hearing from a lot of unemployed college graduates. It would seem as though it might be a movement really that aligns also with a lot of what you're attempting to do. Do you personally support the Occupy movement?
Well, I support people speaking out, and I support people accessing their government. And I support some of the issues that are important to them, the things that I've been fighting at City Hall for a number of years, foreclosure issues, how the banking institutions interact with our community, issues like payday lendings, institutions that are in my community all over the place really taking advantage of my constituents. So I'm supportive of those issues and talking about those issues and changing those issues. And I support the fact that we have individuals who really want to access city government. Now, the issue is that many of these individuals are interested in topics that are unrelated to city government. And we want to make sure that we do what we can to interface with them on issues that are relevant.
Do you think maybe they're going about addressing these issues or asking government to address them and maybe not the right way? Do you think there's a better way?
Well, I think they're learning on how to interact with City Hall. But of course, you have 3 levels of government here. We have the city, the state, and also the federal government. And that's a whole different story. But when it comes to the city of San Diego, I think it's been a learning experience. I've had the city clerk go out and talk to them. I've gone out and talked to them about some of the issues that are important to them that are going to be on the docket. And I think that's really what the key is when it comes to interfacing with this organization.
Police, at last count, had arrested a total of 55 people, 51 early Friday morning, and then another 4 over the weekend. Did you know that police were going to move in Friday morning?
I didn't know that they were going to do it. I thought that it was imminent. I mean, if you continue to break the law, then you're going to get arrested, and that's part of civil disobedience. And some folks have decided, the ones who decided to go to jail for when it comes to their activities, did go to jail. Many of them are out now, and I've seen many of them at the plaza. But the question is should we allow an encampment out at Civic Plaza? And at this point in time, we are not going to allow that to happen.
I want to switch topics. I know we sort of made light of a tweet back from October about the smell of freedom out at the Occupy San Diego encampment smelled similar to medicinal cannabis. What do you mean by that? Well,
that was early on, and you literally could smell marijuana when you walk through the encampment. Not to say that that's always the case. Maybe that was just 1 or 2 people that were doing it at the time.
Why call it medicinal, though? I think you took some hits.
Well, because I saw some individuals who are active in that campaign there, which is fine. And the bottom line is that the medicinal cannabis advocates are looking for the freedom to be able to utilize this drug for their medical issues. These individuals are looking for freedom of expression, and so it would seem like it was pretty apropos at the time.
We don't have a lot of time left, but I know back in 2009 you had spoken in support of medicinal marijuana.
Right.
We know a number of things have happened since then, most recently a federal crackdown, and then finally the city deeming all of these dispensaries illegal. Quickly before we go, should medical dispensaries be allowed to operate in the city of San Diego?
I would like them to. I supported an ordinance that would allow them to in industrial areas. Unfortunately, you have a federal government that doesn't even agree with them operating at all. So we're going to have to find a different way to address it. And it's not just the city's responsibility. It's also the federal government responsibility to address the issue that is important to many San Diegans and indeed many Americans, and make sure that they are able to access this drug.
Councilmember Tony Young, thanks for being here. We'll have to have you back and talk more about that issue.
Thank you.
From outlaw entertainment to one of the fastest growing sports in the world. We'll have a look at the hard-hitting mixed martial arts competition from our Fronteras desk in just a moment. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
Tonight on KPBS at 8, from a small depression in the sand to elaborate multi-chambered tunnels, a look at how and where animals live on Nature, the Animal House. Then at 9, see how scientists are piecing together the most comprehensive picture yet of space, time, and the universe on Nova. And at 10, gain unique insight into what made Steve Jobs tick on One Last Thing. That's tonight on KPBS.
On the next America in Primetime.
I think we're longing kind of for a more innocent time.
Hello? Television sure has changed since Hugh Beaumont graced the screen.
Our world is coming crumbling down.
It must be very complicated to be a man today.
He just wishes he could get a little bit of peace and quiet once in a while.
He is a man who's working very hard to keep his dignity.
We've gone off the tracks.
Sunday at 8 on KPBS. KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Erwin Jacobs and by
Mexico has a long, successful tradition of producing world champion boxers. Now, with the rise of mixed martial arts, or MMA, Tijuana has become a breeding ground for a new generation of fighters. Roxandra Guidi has the story.
This Sheraton hotel in San Diego is being taken over by muscular guys with tight t-shirts and young girls in bikinis. In a few minutes, the first of 14 MMA fights will begin, organized by Epic Fighting, one of the biggest promoters of MMA in the city. People here paid between $50 and $100 to sit in front of the octagon, the 8-sided cage where two fighters will use hands, arms, knees, and feet to battle each other in less than 5 minutes per round.
And now,
the MC summons Jaime Reyes, a crowd favorite, and his opponent, Miguel Lavalle, two young amateur Latino fighters. The two men start out by exchanging punches, and before long, they end up against the cage and onto the floor. They're using striking and grappling techniques, a mix of boxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, kickboxing, and karate. MMA is one of the fastest-growing sports in the world right now. The fights are intense, very quick, and combining a variety of disciplines. It's got a big following in Tijuana for historic, cultural, and economic reasons. Many young fighters who come from a boxing or lucha libre background hope to make it someday as MMA fighters in the U.S. And with a blink of an eye, the fight is over. Lavalle wins.
You're in the freeway, you see somebody fighting on the side of the road. You're going to look, right? So I think that's what everybody likes about the sport. It's very, you never know what's going to happen. There's no guaranteed who's going to win. Not always the best fighter wins.
Alex Soto is 27 years old. He lives in San Diego, but trains at Chacal Gym in Tijuana, where he was born. Last year, he won the Ultimate Warrior Challenge Mexico featherweight title, which made him famous in the MMA scene in his native city. A membership at Chacal costs $40 a month. In San Diego, an MMA gym membership can cost up to $100 a month. Soto says that many other fighters from San Diego cross into Tijuana to train or to fight.
In mixed martial arts, there's while it was evolving, I mean, people are still learning different disciplines. Some people grew up wrestling and they go into boxing, and they don't know boxing very well. So they come to where the boxing world is, and that's here in Tijuana. And vice versa, Mexican fighters go to America to learn wrestling and learn the skill of wrestling and takedown. So they're complementary to each other.
26, 27, 28.
In the 90s, MMA was illegal in most states. The sport was relegated to illegal venues or back alleys, and often across the border in Mexico. In 2005, California legalized the sport, and MMA came up with strict guidelines that protect the fighters. It is now sanctioned in 45 states. And at the center of this business is the Las Vegas-based Ultimate Fighting Championship, or UFC, a billion-dollar empire. In recent years, new gyms south of the border have tried to capitalize on that growth. There are now more than a dozen registered gyms, scores of informal ones, and at least 10 promising Tijuana-based fighters who compete internationally. Chacal Gym has 65 members, many of them working-class 14 to 20-year-old kids.
Well, we're trying to have as many young guys as we can to focus ourselves to the sport instead of being on the streets and looking at the news and what is going on over there. You know, we're trying to make them, if they need to somehow waste their energy or adrenaline or something, we have this correct sports to do instead of them being attracted to some other kind of violence.
Chacal's owner, Javier Martinez, says that growing up, his mother wouldn't let him watch contact sports like boxing or wrestling on TV because they were too violent. But today, young people like Javier Martinez and Alex Soto are betting on the popularity of MMA to help their peers in Tijuana. Right now, an amateur fighter south of the border can make less than $100 a fight, but they're driven by the promise of making more than $100,000 if they make it to Las Vegas someday.
That was Roxandra Guidi, who says the business of MMA fighting is growing along with its popularity. The Ultimate Fighting Championship, based in Las Vegas, is looking to expand to Mexico City.
He introduced us to a variety of trails around Southern California in his books, and on KPBS television, Jerry Schad's A Foot in the Field series was based on those hiking books. Schad passed away in September after battling cancer, but his legacy lives on with his final hiking guide to San Diegans. Joining me is Peg Reiter, Jerry Schad's widow. Thank you, Peg, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us about Jerry's final book, 50 Best Short Hikes.
This was a book Jerry was very excited about. It was going to be his last book. He told me that when I met him. He was working on his last book. And he did this book primarily as a way to make hiking more accessible to people who perhaps don't think of themselves as hikers or walkers. And so unlike A Foot in a Field, that is really this very lengthy, vigorous book, this is really meant for the average person or a visitor to select something that's basically right outside their front door.
So these are shorter hikes, aren't they? About 1 to 8 miles in length?
Yes, correct. And the focus of these hikes really are more urban, if you will, or no further than 20 miles inland. So the book starts at Oceanside and works down the coast to Imperial Beach, and the hike that's furthest away from the coast is about 20 miles inland.
Do you have a favorite hike in this book?
You know, I'm asked that frequently, and really I don't. Although I will say Jerry opened my eyes to urban hikes. Most people don't know this, but Jerry had been living downtown in a high-rise condo for about 4 or 5 years before I met him. I met him in March 2010, and he really had become more of an urbanite. The work that he had done on A Foot in a Field was things that he had done when he had been much younger and, you know, more athletic, if you will. And as he was starting to get more into a retirement mode, he changed his lifestyle and moved downtown. And so he made me aware of all the things that one can do in an urban hiking environment, which was something new for me.
Now, this really was a labor of love for Jerry, wasn't it? You even mentioned that he said it was going to be his last book.
Mm-hmm.
What did he say about writing this book?
Well, initially when he started it, he didn't know that he had cancer. When I met him in March of 2010, he was just in the beginning phases of starting this book. And actually, out of the 50 hikes, I did 32 of them with him in a span of about 6 or 7 months. And then, of course, he started writing the book and submitted it to his editor. This book was special, again, because he really wanted the average person to feel like they had access and could go do something outside. That was very important to him.
It must be bittersweet, really, the book tour for you now.
It is incredibly bittersweet. When I go through the book, and I do some of these hikes myself now by myself, you know, I'm just reminded of the time I spent with Jerry and the whole process of putting this book together. Toward the end of putting this book together, he was so very sick that he couldn't get out of bed. So the last 4 months of his life, he was bedridden, which meant he couldn't get to a computer. And so much of what we do now is sending emails back and forth and documents that way. So I would work with his editor, and I was sort of the in-between person, if you will. Information would come, I would print it out, and then I'd take a clipboard and I'd lay in bed next to him with a red pen, and we'd mark things up together. Then I would go back and submit things to his editor. I would arrange conference calls between him and his editor, and we had a speakerphone, so those conference calls often were on a speakerphone, and I'd lay in bed next to him while the three of us were talking.
So this book really is also, I guess, the memento, really, of your final days.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. He kept referring to this at the end as my book. And a promise I made to him was that this book would get completed, which unfortunately Jerry did not see the final published version of this book, but at least he knew it was going to get done.
And it is available now at local bookstores and online. Peg Reiter, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
By the 3rd grade, over 70% of California's children have a history of tooth decay. That's one reason behind the annual candy buyback program in San Diego. It also provides a sweet treat to our troops.
Well, what are you eating, Sophia? You took one out?
Well, pediatric dentists definitely see more patients in a day than a standard general dentist office will. Part of that is because the kids don't quite have the attention span to sit still for as long as an adult will, so our appointments tend to be shorter.
Dr. Eric, as he prefers to be called, sees 15 to 30 kids a day at this office in the Kensington area. He's also participated in the candy buyback program for the past 3 years. I was curious to hear why he wanted to protect kids from sugar, cavities, and calories while passing the treats on to our troops.
So the hope is, of course, the troops are grown adults, and when they get their candy, they're going to eat it in small amounts and then be able to brush and floss afterwards to limit the damage to their teeth. Whereas kids, if you unleash a bag of candy on a kid, they're going to not stop until their belly hurts.
Dr. Eric and his wife Stephanie, who is also a dentist, have no reservations about giving candy to their 2 young sons. So you may be wondering, where does all this candy go? Participating shipping stores will send it to Operation Gratitude, and they send the treats to our troops in the form of care packages. And for every pound of candy turned in, the kids receive $1, as you can see. More than 3,800 pounds of candy was collected last year. This year's goal, 5,000 pounds of candy for the troops. We'll recap our top stories in just a moment. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next news hour, the pressure on the Federal Reserve to bolster spending, investment, and growth. That's Wednesday on the PBS News Hour.
The American people have named PBS
the most trusted source of news and public affairs
for the 8th year in a row. Trust.
The American people have spoken. Thank you.
There's an awful lot of stuff going on, an awful lot of information.
This country's under threat.
Do you know anything about it? Why do you need to know?
The death has been announced at the Director General of MI5.
Why do you imagine Benedict gave me the file? You tell me. You're gonna have to choose sides one day, you know? Remember, people get killed in the middle of the road. Take another look at the bottom of page 8.
A masterpiece contemporary.
Sunday at 9 on KPBS.
Welcome back to the Public Square on KPBS Evening Edition. Tonight, I want to ask for your help with an upcoming series KPBS is working on. We're taking an in-depth look into aging. Now, there's a good chance many of you watching are baby boomers. You probably know this is the year boomers begin turning 65. So, are you working past retirement because you want to, or maybe because you need to for financial reasons? Well, if you are, let us know. There are many ways to contact us, including on Twitter or like us on Facebook. And of course, you can email us with your story at news@kpbs.org. And now, Dwayne has a recap of tonight's top stories.
A wildfire in Mexico is sending smoke and ash into southern San Diego County. It's burned about 600 acres west of Tecate, but no homes are threatened. The California Coastal Commission turned down plans to redevelop the Navy's headquarters in downtown San Diego. The commission says the project and surrounding area have changed significantly since it was approved 20 years ago. You can watch and comment on any of tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night. We leave you with a look at the forecast.